It was a beautiful sunny day in Vero Beach, Florida. Today, I had a 6-hour offshore fishing trip booked for a group of 4 women. I really hoped that they would not suffer from seasickness, like yesterday's group of students who arrived on vacation. Then I had to spend an hour washing the consequences of their sea adventure from the deck. I had just finished loading the live bait and getting the boat ready for the day when I heard the group approaching along the dock. To say that I was amazed is to say nothing. All 4 women were great. Daisy Duke shorts, crop tops, skirts, tank tops. You know what I mean. All day you will have to restrain yourself from looking at their charms. Well, there are more complex jobs. I'll have to be patient, I thought, smiling. When we went out to sea, one of the women spoke to me. The others had already started taking drinks from their refrigerator and changed into swimsuits to get a good tan. I hope they don't get burned. They were all from the Midwest, and since it was only March, had fairly fair skin. So, Skip. That's my name, Skip Lance, owner and operator of Good Times Fishing Charters. How did you get started in the fishing business? Well, it's quite a long story, I said. But if you're really interested, we have about an hour until we get to the reef where the fish should be biting today. Girls, everyone here, one of the women called her friends. Skip is going to tell us the story of how he got into the fishing business. Something in his face tells me that we would love to listen. The women all gathered at the helm and made themselves comfortable. 2 years ago, I was a happily married man, I began. At least that's what I thought. It turned out that my wife was not as happy as I was. We were married for 16 years. I worked for an electrical services company in a management position, and my wife was a homemaker. We agreed before we got married that if we had children, she would stay home to raise them. We both agreed on this. I thought we were doing well, life was wonderful. I had just won a major project that was expected to double the company's revenue. I also recently won a lawsuit against a competitor who had encroached on our region and received the exclusive right to operate in it. For this, the owner of the company awarded me a new company car, Lexus 350, the car I've been dreaming of for a long time. 2 years ago, my boss gave me a membership to the Madison Club as a bonus. It was an exclusive club for the elite, inaccessible to ordinary people. I didn't use the golf course, pool, or tennis courts, but once a week my wife and I went there for dinner without the kids so we could spend an evening together chatting and enjoying the quiet. All this was paid for by the company. Sometimes my wife took the kids to the pool with her and we enjoyed this bonus. My children are now 15 and 12 years old, but I haven't seen them for almost 2 years. At this moment, one of the women interrupted me. Wait, you haven't seen your children in 2 years? No, I answered, but let me finish the story, and then you can all tell me what an idiot I am. So I got home on Friday night and called my wife. Hey, honey, let me take a quick shower, and I'll be ready to go to the club. I'm so looking forward to our evening. I put my things on the kitchen table and noticed my wife. She stood behind the sofa in the living room, tense and with a very nervous expression on her face. It was strange because she usually sat in her favorite reading chair. It seemed like she wanted to put some kind of barrier between us. I noticed that I couldn't hear the children in the house, so I asked where they were and when the babysitter would be coming. Sky, that's my ex's name, said she was taking them to her parents for the weekend and then blurted out, I want a divorce. I was dumbfounded. Did I hear correctly? Did she really say she wanted a divorce? Where did this come from? I thought we were doing well. We loved each other, or so I thought, and we had a good life. Decent income, good kids in private school, and new cars. We went to church every Sunday, and she sang in the choir. I didn't even suspect that anything was wrong. The only thing we ever argued about was the time I spent at work. Let me explain. I tried to work from 8 a.m. so I could have coffee with my wife before leaving. I made it a priority to get home by 5:30 every night to have dinner with my family. Sky would always cook a delicious dinner, and we would all sit around the kitchen table to eat and talk about the day. Then I played with the kids, talked to my wife, helped with dishes and chores, kissed my wife goodnight, and went back to work around 9 p.m. about 4 nights a week. I'd get home by 2 in the morning and sleep for 4 hours, then do it all over again. I didn't need much sleep, and I had a lot of work to do. I went to the office every Sunday night to prepare for the week ahead and returned 3 more nights a week depending on the situation. And yes, I know what you're thinking. I was actually going back to work. I was almost always alone there. Sometimes an electrician would pop into the workshop to pick up a part because we had 24-hour emergency service. But most of the time, I was alone at my desk, reviewing estimates, scheduling electricians, financial matters, and all that management stuff. My wife sometimes even called me on my work phone. Sky had complained more than once that she didn't like it when I came back to the office in the evenings, but I didn't think it was that big of a deal. In the end, I tried for all of us. For her, for the children, for the sake of our future. I needed to pay for my kids' college in a few years, and I was saving a significant portion of my salary for when I could retire. Everything I did was for the sake of our family, and then she delivered another blow that took my breath away. I met someone else, and we will get married as soon as our divorce is finalized, Sky said. Here I had to grab the tabletop to keep my knees from buckling. I think I mumbled something. What? Are you cheating on me? Have you slept with him yet? Sky just stood silently and looked at me, and her reaction was a yes to me. At this point, I finally got over it. My brain was overloaded, and I couldn't form a single coherent thought. I had a million questions, but I didn't want to snap at her, so I just went to the bedroom to change. When I came back downstairs, she was still waiting in the living room. All I could say was, "Okay, tell me everything." I don't remember much of what she said because my brain was in a fog. I felt blindsided. But I remembered that she met him at the club when one day she took the children to the pool. He was there with his children, about the same age as ours. They began to communicate, and gradually their relationship developed. She admitted that she talked to him more than to me lately because I'm always at work. He visited our house, and the children liked him. He is married, but right at this moment, as she said, he is also talking to his wife about divorce. And so on, and so on. At some point, I realized that I was crying. My world just collapsed. It felt like a bomb had exploded in my head. Sky cried and told me that she didn't want this to happen, that she was trying to get me to spend more time with her, and that she wasn't ready to spend the next 20 years with a husband she barely saw, even though we had a good life. They hired the same lawyer and have already prepared divorce papers. She said I could look at them when I was ready, but initially planned to give them to me tomorrow, knowing that I would likely be shocked by what I heard. At some point, I went up to my bedroom, but slept in the guest room. Sky walked in there and said something that I still don't understand. Maybe you girls can explain it to me, because I don't think like a woman. She said, "What are you doing, Skip? We're still married. We can still sleep in the same bed until we get divorced." I just looked at her, gently took her hand and led her out of the room, then closed and locked the door. "Wow," said one of the women. "It must have been very difficult for you. She must have had doubts if she wanted you to stay in the same bed with her. Maybe she was still hesitant." I looked at her, and it seemed that my story moved her to tears. The next morning, I went downstairs for coffee, and my wife was already sitting in her chair. "Good morning," Sky said. "Did you sleep at least a little?" I just took the coffee and sat down opposite her. "So, how do you see all this?" I asked. "We have no chance. How about going to a family psychologist? I can stop working at night. I might even quit and find another job. You know I get calls from other contractors all the time. I can easily find another place." My wife looked like she hadn't gotten enough sleep and was having trouble maintaining eye contact. I looked her straight in the eyes. Sky told me it was too late. She tried to talk to me about it many times, and I just ignored her feelings. She made a decision, and although it was the most difficult thing in her life, she was not going to back down. She then slid the divorce papers across the coffee table and said I should read them, and then we could talk again. I sat there, just looking at her, trying to understand how she could do this to me, to us, to the children. How could I be so blind? Why didn't I notice the obvious warning signs? Who is this man? Do I know him? Do I know his wife? The old phrase, "the husband is the last one to know," flashed through my head. This seems to have turned out to be true. I did not see a single sign that would hint at her betrayal. Maybe my family and friends already knew about it. Wait, I thought. Sky said that she already slept with him. Well, she didn't say it outright, but her silence spoke louder than words. So I asked, Sky, where did you make love to him? At our house. Yes, I understand. Of all the possible questions, this was at the top of my mind. She just sat there and looked at the coffee table, which I took as a yes. Hearing this, I felt rage boiling inside me. I've never been so angry in my life. I was doing my best for my family, and my beloved wife met some guy in a club that I earned for her, fell in love with him, brought him to our house, and probably slept with him in my bed. At that moment, I realized that I would never forgive and could never trust her again. My love for her died at that moment. All thoughts of trying to bring her back flared up and burned out in an instant. I took the documents and went into the office to read them. Sky walked over and stood by the door, crying quietly. Skip, I'm really sorry. This is very difficult for me. It just happened, and I don't want to live like this anymore. I had to tell you this big secret. We always agreed to be 100% honest with each other. It was painful for me. I tried to be fair in the divorce. You'll have to pay child support and some maintenance for me. After all, we've been married 16 years and I deserve something. The kids and I will stay in the house until I get married again. Then we will sell the house and the kids and I will move in with my new husband. I will get full custody of the children since I was a stay-at-home mom, but you will have extensive visitation rights. You can see them whenever you want. Then I stood up and shouted, No! I couldn't stand it anymore. At the top of my voice, I screamed at her, Get out of here, you cheater! She ran away crying, and I just sat there, trying to read the documents, but mostly shedding tears over them. My happy life was destroyed in an instant. I sat in my office most of the morning and was finally able to finish reading the documents. Everything was as she said. I had to pay her $1,000 per child every month, another wanting $500 a month in maintenance, and I had to move out and find a new place to live. Although I made good money, paying her $3,500 a month was about 70% of my income. And besides, I won't be able to see my children every day. Now I'm going to be a dad for the weekend. As I was wondering what to do next, I remembered a conversation I had with a friend several years ago. He was just going through a difficult divorce and was left with practically nothing. A year later, he complained to me that life was crap. He had no money. Everything went to his ex. It wasn't even enough to take the kids to the movies if he also wanted to eat. The children were bored, sitting in his small apartment where there was nothing to do. His wife had already married for the second time and lived on a grand scale. She had just bought a new car and showed up with her new husband in all the expensive restaurants in the city. Apparently, they did not need anything. We discussed the topic of divorce without guilt. What nonsense! We assumed that in 95% of divorces, someone is necessarily to blame. The judicial system took the path of least resistance and created the status of innocence so as not to find out who was right and who was wrong. And then they set a ridiculous scale by which they determined who should pay and how much. It all came down to calculations according to the formula. The main thing, according to the judges, was the well-being of the children. Those who stayed with the children, almost always the mother, received a house and money. He had to leave, pay the bills, and enjoy the time he was allowed to spend with the children. That's when I had an epiphany. This won't happen to me. If she wants a divorce, let her get it. But there will be no more skip. For me, it's an all-or-nothing deal. Do you want a divorce? Then I'll leave and you'll never hear from me again. I have been the most devoted and loving husband since our marriage. Everything I did was for our family. I put my personal interests last. I was all in. And now I was going to be all out. No 50-50ths. No, who will take the children and when. No endless suffering. This will not happen. Do you want a divorce? Don't you love me anymore? Fine, You can take it all, but you won't get me. At all. With these thoughts, I signed the divorce papers and went to look for Sky. She took a shower and did the laundry. I told her that I had signed the papers and would start packing. She just looked at me with a confused expression. I don't know if she expected me to fight for her or challenge her decision, but she just stood there with her mouth open. When she finally came to her senses, she said, "That was quick, Skip. I didn't expect you to agree so quickly. Can we talk for a minute?" I said, "Sure, let's go to the kitchen." As soon as we sat down, she wanted to discuss when I would see the kids and where I was going to live. I just said that I didn't know where I would live yet, and that I didn't need to see the children. My statement hit Sky as if I had slapped her in the face. "What do you mean you don't want to see the children? You love them. You can't be serious. You can see them whenever you want. I will never interfere with you. Plus, they still need their father." I looked at her without any expression and said, "Let me explain my understanding of marriage and divorce. When we got married, I gave you everything I had. My name, my time, my money, my love, everything I could. All this was for you, and after the children appeared, for them too. I was entirely involved. Now that you don't want me in your life anymore, I'm entirely out. Not a little in and a little out. You don't want me, that means you won't get a part of me. You won't get me at all. You already have my replacement. Let him be a father to the children. I don't want to confuse them by becoming a part-time dad." Sky sat there crying, looking at me in bewilderment. "But it doesn't work that way, Skip. You can't just stop being their father." "Watch me," I said, and went to pack my things. When I packed my things, I left most of the items. They meant nothing to me. I left the wedding ring on the bathroom table and loaded my things into the car. At some point, Sky came up and said that when I came to my senses, I could call her. She thought I was in shock and would probably change my mind when I could think more clearly. I simply said, "Okay," got into the car and drove away. And that was the last time I saw or talked to her and the children. Once I signed the divorce papers, I assume I'm no longer married, and she's now married to that other guy. I've always had a dream to one day move to the ocean and run a small fishing charter. So that day I just drove south, leaving everything behind. I only took $10,000 from our savings. Basically, I left her everything: house, car, all property, bank accounts, bills, children. On the way south, I called the office and quit my job, not knowing where I would end up. But a couple of weeks later, I was having breakfast at a small roadside cafe and saw a notice on the wall about a charter fishing business for sale. I called the guy, found out that he wanted to leave the business after 25 years of work, and made an appointment. The next day we met and easily came to an agreement that I would pay him in installments. He left me everything in the business: the boat, the gear, the rental space, the website, the bank account, the name, everything. We agreed that he would teach me how to operate a boat and show me where the good fishing was throughout the year. After this, the business will be mine. I trained under him for the first year and now pay him a percentage of every charter flight. He receives approximately $1,500 a week from me, and the agreement is that after 10 years I will become the full owner and the payments will stop. This is my story. The women sat silently, as if I were from another planet, with their mouths open. Finally, they came to their senses and began bombarding me with questions. "Is it true? You haven't seen your children for 2 years? Did you even call them?" "No." "Do you pay child support?" "No." "They tried to find you?" "Don't know." "The bailiffs haven't found you yet?" "No." "Do you have any feelings at all?" "Yes." "Do you love your children?" "Yes." "How could you just walk away and leave everything behind?" This is incredible. Easily. Listen, girls, did you hear what I said about totally in or completely out? That's exactly what I meant. And that's what I do. I live entirely outside. Yes, I think about how my children are doing. Do they like their new father? Do they miss me? I miss them terribly. But I'm not going to be the every weekend dad, the person who takes the kids when the ex and her new husband want to go away for the weekend. the person who pays all the bills but gets nothing in return, the person who comes to sporting events and sits at the other end of the bleachers to look at his children because he is no longer part of the family, the person who is not invited to Christmas and Thanksgiving. This won't happen. I honestly don't even know why the sheriff hasn't shown up yet, but it may have to do with the fact that I only accept cash for charters, pay everything in cash. I don't have a cell phone or computer. I only use office phone, which is still registered to the previous owner, and sold his Lexus on the way to Florida, buying a used Jeep for cash. Maybe that's the point, but I don't really care. She threw me out, that means I left. I continued. That's how I reacted. Honestly, if I had to go through it again, I'm not sure I would react the same way. It's always easier to judge in hindsight. But that's how it was. It's a thing of the past. And now I live with it. It's not that I'm proud of my actions, but I can handle it. Most of the time I'm happy. Every day I think about the past less and less. Although I shouldn't have said it, I added, current divorce laws seem to have been created by women alone. The man ends up losing every time. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I realized it would be better to just shut up. That's not true, one of the women replied sharply. I saw the rage in her eyes. Well, the laws were certainly not made by a man, I answered quietly. Again, they were stunned by my words, as if something about them surprised them. And then the real attack began. They hurled a torrent of insults at me, calling me a terrible person if I was even worthy of the title of a man. I was a lousy father, a heartless pig who didn't follow the rules, while somewhere out there was a woman who suffered because of me. She is most likely better off now without me. Perhaps her new husband treats her the way she deserves. I remained at the helm, just silently listening, looking straight ahead. I've heard it all before. For some reason, women believe that they can leave their husbands, and the court will decide everything in their favor. Finally, I ended the conversation with, listen, ladies, you came here to fish and have a good time. You asked a question, and I answered honestly. I could have remained silent about personal things, but I decided to share. You obviously didn't like how I acted and how I live. So let's just get back to fishing and leave it at that. You won't change me. This almost calmed them down. At least the insults stopped, although they didn't seem to stop criticizing until the end of the trip. I soon noticed that Phillies, the only single one of the four, glanced at me from time to time. After 2 years of working on charter fishing flights, I had built myself up, had pretty good upper body muscles, a deep tan, and my hair had grown and faded almost to a surfer's white. I quietly went about my work for the rest of the trip and then delivered them back to the marina. I think I overheard Phyllis telling her friends that she wouldn't mind knowing how I would be if I gambled it all with her. There were a few chuckles, but by then they had been drinking for several hours. I didn't pay much attention to her words, but it still made me smile. As we slowly entered the marina, I noticed someone at my parking lot. I couldn't see who it was, but as I got closer, my heart sank. Sky, my ex-wife, was standing on the pier. "Who is this?" asked one of the women. "That lady's is my ex-wife," I replied, stunned. "Oh my God," the woman exclaimed. "It's getting more and more interesting. We need to stay and see what happens next." "No, ladies, your fishing trip is over. It was fun, but it looks like my day is just getting started." It's been 2 years since I saw my ex-wife, and there she was, standing on the dock, looking very, very nervous. I wondered why she was here. The last time we spoke, she handed me divorce papers and told me I had to move out. She found a new man and has already slept with him. And now she stood in front of me after strictly forbidding me from contacting her since the moment I left. "Skip, can I come to your house and talk?" "Please," Sky said. There was a plea in her voice. She didn't even pay attention to the four women who stood nearby, holding their breath. I simply nodded, got off the boat, and walked past her. "Do you know where I live?" I asked. "Yes," Sky replied. "Okay, then meet me there in an hour. I need to clean the boat, and at the same time buy food on the way home." Four women surrounded me in a protective ring. Phyllis looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Here's my phone number. Call me after you talk to your ex. Everyone needs someone to lean on, and by the look on your face, you're not really looking forward to this conversation. I don't know how I would have gotten through my divorce without these three friends. I put the number in my pocket and promised to call, although I didn't really believe it. On the way home, I stopped at my favorite diner and grabbed 2 fish and chips. I was so lost in thought that I didn't even think about buying anything for Sky. As I pulled into my sandy driveway, I saw Sky sitting on my porch, which I built myself, overlooking the ocean. You could have gone inside. I don't lock the door. There's nothing to steal anyway, I said, opening the door with my foot, since my hands were busy. Once inside, I walked straight to the back deck overlooking the ocean. I bought food just for myself, I said, but if you want, I can look for something in the refrigerator. Sky shook her head. No, thank you. I'm too nervous to eat anything. But you will eat. After laying out the food, I asked, I have so many questions, but I think you can answer most of them. But first, how did you find me? Oh, Skip, you have no idea how hard it was to find you. It took 2 years. After you left that day, I cried and cried. I knew that what I had planned would be a difficult test, first of all for you. But you reacted so unexpectedly that my entire carefully thought-out plan turned into a disaster. I found you using a website that searches through a database of property owners. I checked it almost every day, and a few months ago your name appeared on the list. If you had changed your name, I would never have found you. I've been going through this conversation in my head many times over the past 2 years, and I still don't know how best to start. So I'll say it straight, Sky said. Skip, I didn't have any affair. I made it all up. I was desperate and thought that if I made you believe that I was leaving for another man, you would finally realize how important it was to me that you stop working in the evenings. I talked to you about this so many times, I meant it. I knew that you didn't consider it a big problem. It went in one ear and out the other. But for me, it was important. I felt broken, and you didn't listen. I was at home all the time while you conquered the world. I wanted you to be next to me every evening, like in a normal family. Boom. My world collapsed again. I felt the blood pounding in my temples. My heart was pounding so hard that it was about to jump out of my chest. What was that? How could she hit me so unexpectedly again? Wait, how is it that you didn't have an affair? I asked. You said you fell in love with another man, slept with him, and even humiliated me by bringing him to our bed. Yes, Skip, I said that I met someone at a club and we fell in love. It was a lie I made up so that you would finally take my words seriously. Well, and also that I want a divorce. But I didn't say that we had sex in our bed. You asked yourself, but if you remember, I didn't answer anything then. You were shocked, and I decided to wait a little to explain everything to you. I thought that if you left, you would have to face the fact that you are losing your family, and then you will understand how important this was to me. I hoped that you would do everything possible to come back and make things right. But you filed for divorce, I said. Those papers were fake, Sky replied. I just downloaded them from the internet. They weren't real. I didn't go to a lawyer. Nothing was filed in court. It was just to make you think it was serious. We're still married, Skip. But then what about alimony and the calculations for it that were indicated in the papers? I asked. It was information from the state website, Sky explained. There's a formula there. You just enter your income and other data, and the site calculates what the court will decide. But you said it was too late to change anything to save our marriage, I said. Yes, but I asked you so many times before to lighten up your workload so that you could be around, Sky replied. You only tried for a week or two, and then you went back to work in the evenings. I decided to set an ultimatum for at least a couple of weeks so that you would finally understand me. I was determined to lie only once. Yes, it was a huge lie, but I promised myself that I would not lie further. We have always been honest with each other, friends, and I knew that I was crossing the line that I hoped to correct. I hoped that you could forgive this one lie because my intentions were sincere. I wanted it to help us, not to bring us closer. I dreamed that someday you would give advice to a friend, Say something like, "My wife had to tell me that she was leaving me so that I would wake up and start spending time with my family." That's the level of shaking I was trying to do. Give it to you. Life without you has been hard. The children miss you terribly. I miss you every second I'm awake. All three of us still fall asleep in tears. The children keep asking why you left. I told them that Mom did something stupid and Dad had to leave. I took all the blame on myself without going into details. My mind was trying to process what Sky was saying. Looking into her eyes, I knew that she was telling the truth. We were always honest with each other. We couldn't hide even harmless lies about surprises. My God, simply incredible. "So why are you here, Sky? What do you want from me now?" I asked. "I want you to come home, Skip. I want to be your wife again. I love you and miss you. You are the love of my life. I want you to be a father to our children again. I want to forget these 2 years and, if possible, forget my stupid idea. Skip, please forgive me for what I did. I needed time to digest all this. Everything was happening too quickly. The same feelings of shock and confusion washed over me. Sky, first of all, yes, I forgive you for lying. I understand that you were desperate and made it up to make me think. But I lost 2 years of my life with you and the children. How can I forgive this? You took it away from me. 2 years of days, nights, events, ups, downs, holidays, weekends, laughter, tears, pain, and joy. You want me to just say that everything is fine because you had good intentions. Look at what this is. It cost us both. I know, Skip, I know. I was stupid, and I'm probably still stupid. But I was on edge. I wanted you to be with me in the evenings. To talk to me, to hug me, to be close. I lay there every night alone in bed and wanted you to be near, and you continued to work. It seemed to me that work was your first love, and I was a distant secondary one. When I found you in Florida, I knew exactly what I would see here. We always shared dreams and hopes with each other. I knew that you would just live in a small house on the beach and work on fishing trips. That was always your dream retired. Over time, I realized that it was I who needed a big house, expensive cars, and prestigious schools, said Sky. I pushed you to success so that your income would grow and provide for my desires. You yourself never wanted this. Your boss most likely gave you the club membership to please me, which in turn would please you. You were always happy with a simple life and always put us first. You made me happy and provided for our family. Why I love you. I knew that I would not find you in a luxurious house driving an expensive car. I hoped that you did not find solace in the arms of another woman. By the way, Sky added, your old boss is really mad at me. I think he has a picture of me hanging in his break room and he's throwing darts at it. He's called several times asking if I found you. He wants me back. I sat and looked at Sky. I didn't even touch my food. I was paralyzed, comprehending and absorbing every word she said. I knew everything she said was true. My heart broke with every word she said. I haven't been interested in anyone since I left you, I said quietly. I had no interest in others. Tears came to my eyes. My heart was beating so hard that I could hear it in my ears. The truth was that this was exactly what my heart wanted, although it never told my mind. Sky, this is too much for me at once, I said. I want to believe every word you say, but I need time. 2 years ago you told me, and I believed that you had an affair and that you wanted a divorce. Now you say that it was all made up. I need time to comprehend all this. Where are you staying? How long are you here? I'd like to stay with you, Sky said. But if it's too soon, I'll stay at the Starlight Hotel. I made a reservation in advance in case my unexpected appearance was a shock to you. I didn't want to risk you running away if I contacted you in advance. Yeah, I think you should stop at Starlight, I said. If you stay here, I won't be able to sort out my thoughts and think about everything you said. Tell Bob at the hotel that this is about me. I'm a frequent guest at the beach bar and can walk there in 20 minutes as the crow flies. Try their fried fish sandwich, it's really good. Sky stood up and said, Skip, I know how much this has hit you, Please take some time to think about what I said. I know you'll have a lot of questions. We haven't even started talking about the kids. They're healthy. And now they are with my parents. I took unpaid leave to come get you." With these words, she hugged me goodbye and left the house. I sat in the chair until the moon rose high, thinking about everything she said. Yes, I had a lot of questions. How are the children? When did Sky get the job? Where does she work? Do I want to be with her again? Will I be able to trust her again? I thought about why then, 2 years ago, I did what I did. I didn't want to stay and become a weekend dad, reliving the pain of losing my family and everything I had built over and over again. This loss would be before my eyes every day, but I escaped. I now felt a strong sense of loss because of how I had chosen to deal with her invented betrayal. What if I only stayed for a week? Would that be enough for Sky to confess? I should have at least given my boss 2 weeks' notice. After all, I loved the job, and he was a great boss. If I had stayed and gone according to the rules, I most likely would not have missed these last 2 years with Sky and the children. I had to fix all this. Even though I was angry about the false betrayal, deep down I knew that I still loved her very much. I miss her every day. All my friends in Florida knew my story, and that I still couldn't forget it. To be honest, this was the main reason why I never tried to look for new love. I felt like broken goods. And now Sky is here, saying that she wants me back, saying that she loves me, that the children need a father. My God, the children haven't found a new father. They didn't have a father at all this time. Everything fell into place. My heart suddenly filled with joy, as if a warm wave washed over me. What am I doing sitting here when my wife is just a few steps away on the coast? I jumped up and ran to the Starlight Hotel. At the reception, I asked what room my wife was staying in. My friend Bob, who was just chatting with the administrator, was smiling from ear to ear. The administrator put the number card on the counter and said, "You have become a topic of discussion for us today. As soon as we saw that your wife came back alone, everyone started arguing about how long it would take for you to show up. Good luck, Skip." Going up to her room, I suddenly realized that I was completely wet from sweat. I was dripping from my chin, from my hands. I tried to calm my breathing, took off my shirt, and tried to wipe off the sweat. But nothing could calm the heart that was literally pounding in my chest. At that moment, the door swung open and Sky stood in front of me. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. She looked into my eyes, jumped into my arms, and pressed herself against me with all her might. Our lips met in a passionate kiss, and we pulled away from each other only when we couldn't breathe. She held the back of my head with one hand and tried to take off her shirt with the other. I gently lowered her so she could use both hands. As soon as the shirt was off, Sky threw herself into my arms again, clinging to me, despite the fact that I was all wet. Without saying a word, I moved towards the bed, kicking off my shoes. As soon as my knees touched the bed, Sky broke our kiss, quickly took off her pants, and pulled my shorts off with one jerk. I saw her fiery gaze, and in a moment she was on top, completely devouring me. I held her head, our bodies merged in a single movement. She opened her arms, muffled screams of pleasure, while I moved more and more slowly, almost gently, as if for the first time. Somewhere in the distance, I heard a door closing, but at that moment, it was absolutely unimportant. God, how I missed this. That was the last thought I remember before falling into a deep, peaceful sleep, hugging the woman I loved. A woman who, it turns out, I never really lost, and who, it turns out, never left me. I was happy, really happy, for the first time in 2 years. The next morning, I gently touched Sky's lips and kissed her. My hand gently slid along her neck, moving lower. Sky moaned and threw her leg over me, smoothly standing on top of me. We made slow love. "This is definitely the best way to start the day," Sky said, looking at me adoringly. "I didn't even dare to dream of this when I came here for you." "Sky," I said, "we have so much to discuss. Let's go down to the bar. They serve a great breakfast. But first it wouldn't hurt for us to either take a shower or swim in the ocean. What are you choosing?" After a long shower, We walked down hand in hand to the hotel beach bar. Bob was there as always, but this time he greeted us with a big smile. "Good morning, you two. Close the door next time. I happened to pass by your room last night, and well, I couldn't help but check to see if you were okay. Glad I stopped by. By the looks of it, you found common language." We both blushed, realizing that Bob might have seen us in a rather intimate moment, but nothing could dampen the mood. Breakfast smoothie turned into lunch, and then into dinner we talked and talked. Sky told me everything that happened at home during these 2 years, and I shared with her my life and everything that happened to me. This is how I got my life back. No, I didn't go back to the old house. Together, we decided to start over here in Florida. I made enough to support my family, and since Sky was already working, she said she would find something to do part-time while the kids were at school to help with the housework. We sold the old house, and I moved her and the kids to my beach house. We even held a ceremony to renew our vows. This time they added a vow to always be open and honest with each other. We vowed to never let anything come between us again. I think what helped our marriage the most was that we came up with a special word: stop and listen. Sort of like a safe word. When one of us wants the other to stop whatever he's doing and really listen, we say Madison Club. It reminds us that our relationship is what matters most, and that our loved one wants to convey something that may not be reaching us. Sky has only used it once since we got back together. Me twice. Over time, I think we will stop using it altogether because we will feel better about each other and really listen. I could tell you more about the children and our meeting, but that's probably a story for another day. Now I was all in again. Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next